Greetings! Did you enjoy that magical and not at all clumsy walk-on? I haven't got any walk-on music, but maybe you'll put it on during post-production. Anyway, my name is Andy Kind. I am a comedian and a preacher, and I am talking to you, people of Stirling University, on the subject of doors in the wall. Specifically, is there more than the material world? The question is, is there more than matter? Science is an amazing method, an amazing measurement of the natural world, the material world. The question is there more? Are there doors in the wall of the natural world that lead to more? And I think very early on you would want to say yes, if you just consider your knowledge about matter, your knowledge about the fabric of the universe. Your knowledge about matter isn't itself matter. In fact, as I'm going to go on to talk about, most of the things that matter to you aren't actually matter. So it does matter whether everything is matter. The question is there more? But I think intuitively you know that to be true because your thoughts, your imagination, your dreams and wishes, they are not themselves matter, and these things really count. These things are really important. Now, a lot of people will say to me, Andy, Christianity is ridiculous, and I agree with that. I agree that superficially, at least, Christianity is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, think about it. It's the idea that there is this all-loving God who saw that humanity was in pain, came to earth in human form, lived the perfect life, allowed himself to be killed on a cross, and then 3 days later rose from the dead, overturning death so that somehow you and I could have the relationship, the loving relationship that we were always meant to have with God. I mean, that's just binky bonkers, isn't it? It's Arkham Asylum insane. Now, don't get me wrong, I believe it more than I believe anything else, but it doesn't mean I don't think it's at least on some level crazy. But I've got a couple of things to say on that. First of all, for something to be true, I actually don't have to understand it. Lots of things are true which I don't understand. I don't understand really why anybody likes soup. I mean, it's a thick drink with vegetables floating in it. I've never once felt the need to drink a chicken. I don't know why people like soup, and yet lots of people foolishly seem to. I don't understand how Leicester City won the Premiership in 2016. Lots of things that I don't understand are nevertheless true. So for something to be true, I don't have to understand it. If I or you are saying something is only true when you understand it, what you're really saying is, or what I'm saying is, I am God. I'm the Lord. The second thing to say is that although I concede that Christianity is at least superficially ridiculous, so is every single other worldview and philosophy. Not just religion, but every worldview, every way of seeing the world. You will get to a point where you can no longer comprehend it, where it becomes difficult to process, where you just can't get your mind around it. You see, it's very difficult to make any worldview cohere in the way that you would like. The reason that novels cohere so well is because they're fiction. Real life is just a bit more messy than that. Let's take, for example, the creation of the universe. We've known since the 1960s that the universe began to exist. It had a beginning. That's what Big Bang cosmology is all about. So, therefore, we have two logical options as to how that happened. Option number one is that the universe was created by something or someone outside of itself, something or someone that would have to be massively powerful, timeless, immaterial, as in not having a human body, something or someone we might call God, small g, if you like. Now, you might not like that option, so you have one other option, which is that the universe created itself out of nothing. Now, we know from The Sound of Music that nothing comes from nothing, nothing ever could. Julie Andrews taught us that, and she's practically perfect in every way. But honestly, those are the two options. One of these is your origin story. Either the universe was created by a God, or out of nothing, nothing created everything for no purpose. Both of those are ridiculous. One of them's true. One of those is the story of how you and everybody you love got here. And you get to decide which one of those you think makes more sense. Christians believe in the virgin birth of Jesus. Atheists believe in the virgin birth of the universe. Pick a miracle. So I wasn't a Christian when I was at university. I became a Christian after university. But I knew when I was growing up, when I was at uni, I knew that I wasn't a strict materialist. I knew that I believed in more. I didn't really know what I believed about the big story that the universe is telling, by which I mean simply what is true about the universe. I didn't know about the big story, but I knew I had my little story, things that were true for me and about me, regardless of what anybody else thought. If you like, my non-negotiables. I knew, for instance, that I wanted to be loved unconditionally. I didn't want to be rejected because of who I was or what I'd done. I had this desire for unconditional love. I wanted to be free. I wanted my life to have purpose, to be about something and to go somewhere. I knew that death felt unnatural. I'd been told that it was a natural part of life, but I knew that death felt unnatural. I knew that some things were objectively wrong. Abusing a child was always wrong and never, ever a matter of opinion. I knew things like when I listened to beautiful music, it was transcendental. It took me out of myself towards something more. It was a door in the wall. These things are doors in the wall. So that was my little story. And it's the same as you. You and I believe in hope and joy and things like that. Now, you and I might find joy in different things. We might hope for different things. But hope and joy feel the same for you as they do for me. They're part of our little story. And these things are noticeable by their absence as much as by their presence. That's how you know they're part of your little story. Feeling trapped is the absence of freedom. You believe in freedom when you feel trapped, because that is the absence of freedom. You believe in unconditional love when you feel rejected. These things are noticeable by their absence as by their presence. You know that you believe in purpose when your life's going nowhere. You are wired somehow to go after these things. And we don't invent these things. We discover them. We trip over them, stumble into them. We stumble through these doors in the wall of the natural world. And so the question for me, and the question I want you to think about, is simply, which big story makes the most sense of your little story? Which big story makes the most sense of your little story? Is it atheism? Well, atheism might be true. Any of these worldviews might be true. But if atheism is true, then there is no right, there is no wrong, there's no justice, there's no judgment. There's just survival. That's all there is. Survive as well as you can, however you can, for as long as you can. Because there's no justice, there's no judgment, there's just survival. If atheism is true, you have a purpose. Your purpose is to pass on your genes to the next generation. Reach for the stars. If atheism is true, you have a purpose, which is to pass on your genes to the next generation. If atheism is true, then you are free. I'll give you that. You're free to be a randomly collected bunch of molecules dancing off against other randomly organised groups of molecules until you reach your great reward, which is, on atheism, extinction. That's the good news of atheism. If there is no God at all, the good news is that no matter how long you live or how well you live, whether you die at 92 years of age after a joy-filled life of humanitarian aid work, or you die screaming in pain at 9 minutes, your reward will be the same: extinction, annihilation, obliteration. Why? I'll tell you why. Because the universe doesn't love you. The universe isn't sure why it created itself, let alone why you're here. And of course that might be true, but something in you resists that. You see, in Romeo and Juliet, the most famous love story of all time, there's something terribly unnatural about their love story being broken and death winning. In the third act, They die, they both die, and this young love, this flourishing love story, this connection of the beloved other is broken apart by death. And it's really sad, but do you know what? It's not just a play if atheism is true. If atheism is true, then Romeo and Juliet story is the same for you and for me. Every relationship will end with you or someone else standing over the casket, the coffin of a beloved. And that will be it, and the curtain will come down. And something in you doesn't just think, oh, that's a shame, but it resists. You resist that. However, we're not at Christianity yet. Remember, we're just asking the question, which big story makes the most sense of what you already know to be true? So we're not trying to draw in these vague premises here. You have this little story. Which big story makes the most sense? Atheism makes the least sense of the things that you know to be true. But there are lots of religions. So we're not saying, therefore, at this point, Christianity is objectively true. There's lots of religions. And one of the things that you hear a lot is that every religion talks about a God of love. It's okay for Romeo and Juliet because every religion talks about a God of love. It's a Chinese whisper. My postgraduate study is in comparative religion. And one of the things I learned very quickly is that the phrase, every religion talks about a God of love, is a lie on the level of someone saying soup is delicious. It just isn't true. In the Quran, it says, Allah loves not the unbelievers. This is in the text. Allah loves not the unbelievers. If Islam is true, and it might be, and you're not a Muslim, well, sorry, God doesn't love you. This desire you have to be loved unconditionally is a joke or a trick. You know, there is no religion except one where God loves you unconditionally. All the Eastern religions, the really cool ones that people are into, God isn't personal. There is no personal God to love you. You know, you can't love outside of personal relationship. I don't love this is the Duke of Wellington. I don't love him. He looks like a person, but he's not. He's just marble. I don't love him because I can't have a relationship with him. He's not personal. You cannot love outside of personal relationships. So there is no God to love you. Other religions will tell you can know some things about God, but you can't know God himself. You can't know him. You can't know him. Gandhi, one of the greatest men who ever lived, said, "It's an unbroken torture to me that I do not know my creator." Gandhi, who was a Hindu, was expected to go through hundreds of extra reincarnations, the only common denominator for which was his own personal suffering, until he reached his great reward, which on Hinduism is the snuffing out of the candle of desire. It might be a type of blissful extinction, but it's extinction. It's nothingness. And you and I don't want nothing. We want everything, but I'll at least accept something. You know, let me ask you, do you know how many gods tell you that they love you unconditionally no matter what you've done? One. Do you know how many gods tell you that you actually can be free, actually can have hope, actually can experience real peace and real joy? One. Do you know how many gods tell you that your life should have purpose because you were made for a purpose and with purpose? One. Do you know how many gods tell you that, you know, you should think that death feels unnatural because it wasn't meant to be that way and it won't be that way in the end? One. His name is Jesus. There's one story, there's one big story that comes anywhere close to making sense of your little story. And the question is, will you go through those doors in the wall? Your desire for justice, your desire for freedom, your desire for hope and joy, your understanding of beauty, your desire for that relationship of unconditional love. These are doors out of the material realm into something bigger, something more. Would you step through those doors and find out where they lead? When you look into it, I think you'll realise, I hope you'll realise and come to see that actually all these doors lead into the same room. and there's a God of unconditional love offering you fullness of life, waiting for you. If Christianity is true, Romeo and Juliet get their fourth act, and the curtain never comes down. I hope that's been helpful. God bless you.